Welcome back to From A to Built. Today we're kicking off something special. This is episode 1 of a 7-part series with Pastor Martin Porter and the team over at Logos Faith Development. Logos is doing some powerful mission-driven work on church-owned land across California. And to understand their model, we need to start with their story. So the first episode, Origins and Mission of Logos Faith Communities, really dives into Pastor Martin's background, the real gap Logos set out to fill, and why faith communities can play such a meaningful role in delivering housing and stability for families who need it most. The conversation really lays the groundwork for the rest of the series, where we're going to explore their partnerships, modular innovation, their financing approach, early challenges, and the lessons others can use to replicate this model and help out with this massive housing crisis we're in. So let's jump into this great conversation we had with Pastor Martin. All right, well, let's jump into it. Welcome, Pastor Martin. Thank you so much for coming on to A to Built with Chris, James, and myself.
Absolutely.
So for listeners who don't know, tell us a little bit about Logos Faith Community. How would you describe the mission in your own words to kind of kick us off here?
Yeah. Our mission is to build on underutilized and unused church and denominational land. And the vision that backstops it is empowering communities and transforming them through design, through build, and through the programs that we put in the projects.
Give us a little background. Tell us about your journey, like what got you from A to Z. Go as far back as you want, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, a lot of this is pretty intentional. Logos was pretty intentional, both from a business perspective, an opportunity perspective, and from a spiritual perspective. I had come from brokerage. I'd been the chief operating officer of a regional national brokerage company, and had come from a challenging lifestyle that needed to be changed if you would see me sitting in this seat today.
Okay.
And so it came together when I made a decision that I wanted to focus on real estate development as opposed to brokerage. And I wanted to focus on helping landowners keep and secure their equity. And at the time, this happened to be in the sort of South LA, East LA area, where there had been changes in the zoning codes and in ordinances that were upzoning the amount of units you could put on properties. And at the same time, developers and buyers were coming in and purchasing these properties under market. And the opportunity was to say to these property owners, hold on to your property, leverage the upside, and build based on the units you're going to be able to. So, for example, here's a property, 15,000 square feet on a corner, and prior the changes in ordinances and zoning, they could get like 8 units. And after, they can get like 60 units. No joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they don't know that. So folks are coming in and saying, look, we'll buy your property for $400,000 or $500,000. That property's already worth, because of the changes, 1.2 million, let's say 1.4 million. That's a totally normal example of what happened. And it so happened that many of these properties were churches. In fact, if you go into some of these fantastic areas, it's church row, block after block after block after block. I had been called into ministry when I was a young man. I had been called by God into ministry when I was 14 years old, specifically watching a Martin Luther King speech, I Have a Dream, the re-loop of the speech. And between that and sort of the influences of the Billy Graham Crusade, which is an interesting, not polar, they're not polar opposites at all, but interesting different confluences of influences in my life spiritually. So I'd been called into ministry when I was a young man. I had run from that calling. I had run into the corporate world, and I had run into some unfortunate personal lifestyle choices. And when I made this decision to go into development, I met my father in ministry at that time, making these presentations to landowners in Los Angeles. And he was a religious, a a religious figure in this denomination. I'm being oblique to some degree, although we can get less and less oblique.
Yeah.
But and I made a presentation to him and the bishop, which is similar to Bishop Manoia, for example. And I made it at the brokerage office in Beverly Hills, in the boardroom, and all these bigwig denominational leaders were there. They clearly saw the opportunity. They had left the room, and my father in ministry, meaning the man that ushered me into ministry, was in the room with me. And he said, he was the last person in the room with me. Son, how long have you been called into ministry? And when are you going to straighten out your personal life? And he didn't know me from Adam. And I sat down in the boardroom. In fact, you can interview him. This is I sat down in the boardroom, and I'm not a big emotional crier, but I shed a couple of tears. And I said, 14 years old, summer in Los Angeles, listening to Martin Luther King. I had just been evangelized in the Billy Graham Crusades in Cambridge, England, where I was living at that time. I'd been converted. I was at a movie theater in Cambridge, and they looped Billy Graham in, and he was in a London crusade. And then the summer when I listened to Martin Luther King, I didn't know I'd end up working with African-American churches, et cetera, et cetera. God knows better than we do. And I said, since I was 14-year-old, sir, and if you help me, I'll turn my personal life around now. And that really was the beginning of, sobriety. That's what I'll say. Yeah. That was the beginning of long-term, permanent sobriety. I go to bed at 8:30 at night now, guys. That's, you can't get me out, right? Yeah. Long-term sobriety and entering into ministry, leaving the brokerage to pursue Logos full-time as a real estate developer. And all of it came together. And that's the foundation of Logos.
I love it.
Yeah. True story, Morning Glory. Yeah.
Well, you already stole my next three questions.
No, you're good.
You nailed them.
Guys, you're helping me improve this. Yeah.
I guess.
And you're helping me remember how important the mission is of this foundation.
Yeah, I think that's my question, honestly, is, we do things obviously for personal reasons more than, corporate or financial or, professional reasons. So was there a moment or is there an instance that you kind of look back on that really inspired you to, if not just start this journey, keep going, because real estate is not easy. It is not easy.
Yeah. Well, let's see. To start the journey, if you want to go deeper, I had experienced homelessness for it's probably longer. We collapse time in our memory. So I say 3 or 4 weeks, but I may have been homeless on the streets of New York, not up to my best behavior, for probably 2 months. So I had experienced homelessness. And it was at a point in my life where I was much younger, guys. This is much younger. When my family's best decision was to allow me to experience the consequences of my actions. So I was in New York, and they could have flown me back to LA. They could have done many things, but they allowed me to experience the consequences of the lifestyle choices I was making as a younger man. What started Logos as it relates to at least a focus on the lost, the least, and left out. Look, I'm a for-profit developer. I want to do well. I want to also do good. But the sort of origin of we won't build market rate, for example, we're going to focus on affordable, was I had been absolutely homeless on the streets of New York, feeding myself as best I could until I understood how well supported New York is. There's so many services in New York. That's what got me back to LA. But until I understood this, you still got to learn the system. Starbucks assisted me with their food that you could just go in and helpfully take and leave the store. Now, I will tell you, I made an amends by leaving extra money at Starbucks for a couple of years when I started having some money.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so the short version is I experienced homelessness and I wanted to help the homeless. What's kept me going was, look, on the business end, you don't get sober for nothing. You don't go into ministry for nothing. So no matter what, and Bryson, I'm sure this will link to you, I'm going to make payroll, even if they don't know that I'm taking money from the house to do that.
Yep.
I'm going to make sure all my third parties are always paid on time. I'm going to be responsible to all my partners, even if I. So what sustained me was the feeling of responsibility to my family, my teams, my contractors, my vendors, and all that, such that the Logos iteration
Mhm.
of Martin Porter, I don't think there's one third party that can tell you we haven't paid our bill, haven't engaged in litigation action. None of it, even to the detriment. So what sustained me was a feeling of responsibility.
Mhm.
And quite frankly, the opportunity, which I'm sure we'll get into. But
Yeah.
it's nearly unlimited
Mhm.
in as it relates to the ocean that I'm swimming in as a development company.
Yeah. Well, it seems like you kind of touched on the catalyst in terms of that moment when you decided you want to move on and do something more. Walk me through, what was that first project? What was like that very first project where you're like, oh wow, I'm going
Yeah.
to be able to do this?
Yeah. I love brokerage.
Yeah.
Brokerage didn't love me. Brokerage is not a great sustainer of a positive lifestyle at the level I was at, which was actually, top 8th producer in the nation as it relates to recruitment, et cetera, et cetera. In this particular field I was in, an amazing education going into development. So I still come from pipeline.
Mhm.
I'm still all pipeline, and that came from a recruitment background, actually. But the first series of projects were with a terrific co-developer and partner, RMG.
Yep.
Backstopped by an amazing funder, SDS Capital Group. So I didn't think I could do this on my own in the beginning. So working with RMG, working with SDS, with their expertise and the capacity, we put together the first set of deals. Those were on church land, on denominational land, and it was from that I was able to go to Logos 2.0, which is we can do this on our own now. And so, right, I hope that answers the question. Begins to,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we didn't run; we walked, and we walked. But I always guarded or protected. Logos is the one that brought these parties together. And we're the one that will stay in community. We'll fight to stay in the middle of this deal, in the middle of this project, because I absolutely believe Logos is the best communicator to the church, the denomination, to the land partner, to the third parties, et cetera, to the city. And coronavirus was a good example of the value that Logos added by jumping into the entitlements process and making sure those projects ended up getting permitted, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Why don't you run us through kind of what you realized or when you realized there was an opportunity with the churches, and what was that model that you saw and why you pursued it? Because we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
I remember seeing early on what you were trying to do and realizing, wow, there's something really, really special here.
Yeah.
And you were just kept running up against it. Like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this work. Run me through, like, what were you trying to make work? What did you see of, like, okay, I see these churches. I see, we're coming through COVID. Churches are failing.
Yeah.
We're seeing the distress.
Yeah.
There's got to be a way to help these churches. And what did that model end up turning into?
Yeah, totally. So what I saw was that churches and denominations, pastors and church members deserve coherent, cogent communication that's patient. And most developers don't have the time it takes to walk with a church and work with a church and partner with the church to go through the vetting process of development. It is sometimes up to a 2-year process from the beginning of the conversation to deal consummation. You've got to get votes from the church members, from, let's just call it the district conference, from the bishop's conference. You've got lawyers for each of those representations sometimes. You find out that the church, that the driver of the van, the volunteer who drives the van of the church is just as important in some cases as the pastor. In fact, has more influence because they were there for 30 years and the pastor's only been there for 2 years. So there's all the nuances and churches deserve a developer, because we're the only one in this space, which we can get to. We are a developer, a real estate team that understands those nuances so they can walk with them practically. That's also the flip side to the good that we do, is that's the opportunity. We're in Pasadena. There's countless churches in a stone's throw. You know that as well as I do, Bri.
Mhm.
And so I know many developers who work with churches. I don't know any developer who only works with churches and denominations. I can only identify logos. The difference is, and this is what the second part of your question, we've seen many developers who I would say, look, they're getting a C, but they think working with a church is a better opportunity for them because they may have a preconceived notion of how little a church or how much a church knows. And in that, there may be a chiseling opportunity field that they have. We come from the perspective that the church knows much more than people think. Plus, they can Google everything, and that they deserve a first-rate developer that's only focused on them. And so that's what we bring to the table. We're as good as any moderately medium-sized regional developer that will one day be more than regional, but uniquely we can speak to the needs of the church. And we are spending time now leveling up Logos by bringing on the cooperative, by bringing you guys on to say, look, you're talking to, and I'm throwing out a couple of names because they're great.
Yeah.
You're talking, here's a Prime Star, here's a Related, here's a Relatable, fabulous, here's a Logos. Because we're working with the cooperative, because we're working with these best practice strategic partners to be just as good as those guys, but we're only working with churches and denominations. And by the way, most developers that are approaching churches and denominations are not as good as those guys. So now we are.
I love it. And just, I think from a business standpoint, having that really clear focus and getting better and better and better every project, every church that you work with,
100%.
building that portfolio. I mean, in any business scenario, it doesn't have to be development. If you are hyper-focused on one model, one widget, whatever it is, you are naturally going to get better time over time, and being able to bring that value, and the value just gets greater for the churches over time.
Look, so, and I think the other part of your question is, so nuts and bolts, our model is a joint venture limited partnership or a ground lease. So that's the deal model, and how we engage with the lender, how we engage with the investors, and how we engage with the land partner, which is the church. You know, our model as it relates to operations and processes, we're evolving that. We're actually evolving it with you right now. Best practice contracts, best practice checklists. So, you know, I'm the steamroller. I'm the driver for that internally. Meaning Logos is going to be able to sit at the table now, soon, quickly, here, with any good developer, sound like them, act like them, feel like them, and build like them, and only do it in the church and denominational space.
Yeah.
Done.
I have a question then. I mean, I think this is probably the thing that I know our viewers are certainly really keen on. The affordable housing space is super challenging. We're in California. We're in a housing crisis.
Yeah.
You would think it would be less challenging. I want you to talk to us about the challenges you've run up to. And I mean, I guess the real question is, you know, what did you think affordable housing was before you got into this? And what did you discover it actually is?
Boy, guys, I'm going to sound a little Pollyannish, and it is what it is. And I think it's probably because we're on the side of angels. I'm going to sound a little Pollyannish, probably. Well, I will say it's extremely difficult, right? It's extremely challenging, right? Absolutely. I will say walking into this, I assumed that every door would open if you said, I'm going to build affordable housing, and I'm not going to take your hard-earned tax dollars to do it. In fact, the only reason why we got into for-profit is because I didn't know about LIHTC, guys. When I said I'm going to go, so because I came from a brokerage pipeline training background, when I got into development, I automatically assumed I had to go to scale and get a bunch of projects. I didn't know you should do one-offs. I didn't know you should start with a duplex, guys. And I told you before, I had no clue about that. Oh, I'm going to become a developer of large affordable housing projects. So I'm going to get a bunch of these properties to agree, which they did, et cetera, et cetera. And then we're going to reverse it. And by God's grace, it's working wonderfully well. But what I thought is every door would open to me and the politics of it would be totally congruent and any subsidy that could fall into our lap would, et cetera, et cetera. So from the perspective of structurally, very challenging, skewed toward LIHTC, actually skewed toward a way of funding projects, et cetera. And politics is challenging. The bureaucracy is challenging. And we build with churches. and denominations. And there is almost no email that I won't get a return from the city or the county, the federal government, or the state when I'm walking in with my churches and my denominations and we're making the ask together. There is almost no time where the planning department can be cooperative or do something to move a little faster that they don't. Everyone wants to be on the side of angels, whether they believe in them or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been our experience. So challenges are good. Because of all those challenges, it forced us to leave the state and go pursue private family foundations and religious organization foundations and other conduits for this funding. And we've been extremely successful in raising those funds at extremely low interest rates or at competitive interest rates. Everyone's got to do okay. The endowments have to do okay, but certainly at less sensitive return requirements. I'm engaged now with 9 private family foundations out of state on various levels and in state. I can say it. The Disney family, the Disney Family Foundations is investing in us. Amen. Where, I mean, everyone wants a return, guys. But they don't need a nosebleeding return. They don't even need an impact investor return. We all hear these impact investors. They're like, let's all go out. Guys, it's the same due diligence.
Yeah.
And the return requirement's about the same.
Yeah.
So these challenges, because we refuse to ever give up, have us talking to the true angel investors, who, by the way, the amount of money on the table is as large as any other development company that they're talking to. They just have different requirements, and their requirements is that you serve the lost, least, and left out, and that you serve God. So we're having tremendous success in fundraising.
And so with that, I mean, and that's very exciting to hear, that especially leaving the state and finding these family offices that are helping you in these foundations.
Whatever it takes, right?
Whatever it takes to get it done.
Yeah.
Talk to us again. We've touched on this big pipeline. What is that pipeline? Where does it come from? How does it work? We've talked about, just again, you mentioned Pasadena, the massive amount of churches just surrounding us here in Pasadena. Give us a bigger picture view.
Yeah.
What are we talking about here from a pipeline standpoint?
Yeah, and you have an inkling, actually. So, parental caution, the cooperative is a strategic partner of Logos by choice and by definition, et cetera, et cetera. So
Very happy to.
So yeah, 100%. Wouldn't have it had been the vision when I first met Bryson, actually. So nothing was going to stop me from doing that, by the way, including internal, whatever. We've never done outbound marketing. We've never sent a brochure. I've never called a church requesting any business. If I didn't add to the pipeline today for 3 years, we had to have more business than we know what to do with, guys. It's all been through word of mouth. It's all been through referrals. It's a pretty tight-knit group of referrals, actually. 4 or 5 individuals that know me well, that are pastors and bishops, that have said, I think what you're doing is great, and I think you're not so bad yourself. Here's somebody I know. And that has led to, I don't know, guys. I can say we're actively talking to 40 churches right now, vetting them, and half of them have great sites, great sites. I can say, guys, last week I turned down 5 sites off top, based off of one of our metrics is, you have to like who you're working with. Listen, that doesn't mean that the person, you have to believe that they're going to be a good partner. And that this is good for them too. So we often say no to working with church. We often say no to working with the land partner because we don't think this will be good for them.
Yeah.
Or we're not sure their reason for doing this. I didn't get sober and straight and clear and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to want to engage in business practices or do work that wasn't Shining City on the Hill work.
Yeah.
So we're just not the right folks for you right now, right? So what I say is our pipeline is all referrals, all inbound, and as we've started to get more PR, and for example, like this podcast, I would say that's metabolized, guys.
Yeah,
it's gotten, we're getting so much inbound now that we are coming up with a better filter system, and part of that's the cooperative.
Yeah.
So we are upgrading our go, no go. are green light, red light, yellow light. So for example, now we won't build less than 50 units, that kind of thing, right? And that'll continue to change and evolve. I think we're going to evolve to the point at which, and this is going to sound really contrarian, everyone is going to be less return sensitive and more mission and vision focused. We're all going to do great. We're all going to make a lot of money, guys, right? But everyone in my world, we're all going to be less return sensitive as we are blessed more and more by the bounties of foundations and organizations that want to support something totally unique. Logos is totally unique. It's truly something that is so precious and represents a better way forward in development, right? That there won't be an end to the amount of funding and resources that we'll lay at our feet by God's blessings or opportunities. We're going to have to get better at go, no go, so that we can be judicious and add tremendous value in a concentrated way as opposed to a diffuse way.
I have this line that I like to use. It's not always a crowd pleaser, but the housing crisis obviously is with us every single day. I'm always amazed by the types of people like yourself who get into housing and get
Me
into,
too.
But honestly, though, people like who are trying to, fix the building code. People who are trying to create by right public policies or to make it easier to build housing, more cost effective, more streamlined. And most of them, the people you meet, they're activists.
Yeah.
Most of the people you meet, they're people who are really called to do this. And I always get frustrated because I always say, like, look, if this were a real situation, like a real pressing crisis, we would treat it like we do a war. We would have a huge intervention in order to push things forward. Right now it's like we're basically, in World War II, and we're telling like Mother Teresa, like,
That's
hey,
good.
go land on the beaches and see what you can accomplish.
Right.
And it's like, really, like that's what we're doing. But I mean, that leads to my question, which is challenges as an activist, as someone who's trying to carve their own path and make a difference in their own way through the Byzantine system. What are your biggest challenges?
So the biggest challenge is, like any developer, is the capital stack and building it, right? Well, look, the regulatory is the regulatory. And we have about as much firepower to positively engage in regulatory as any organization because we work with churches. So it's very difficult. If I were the mayor or the city council, and by the way, let me also state, we work well with leadership. We work well with this current city council and the mayor. We work for the kingdom. We don't work for politics. We work for the kingdom of God. We don't serve a political party. So, we're for whomever's in office. We're for Mayor Bass. We're for the city council. We're for whoever the next mayor is. We're not their issue. Wherever we go, we bring something good to them and for them, and they want to help. But that's just a good. So the regulatory environment is always challenging, but we find a way. It's the capital stack, right? And it's keeping costs down, keeping quality up, keeping the team together, keeping the margins. Look, I actually thank God we're a for-profit developer. That's biblical, by the way. You have to increase the talents. You have to increase the productivity. And by being a for-profit developer, it keeps us honest. By having some profit margin, it means we're doing something good. It means we're not costing anybody anything on some level, right? So it's the capital stack. Now, I think every crisis is an opportunity. And so every deal is a crisis, right? Because what you're doing is you're going, I think I'm going to get all the money by the time we get to permits. So we're going to keep investing to get to permits. But wait, and so my wife would say, you mean you don't have the $2.4 million commitment? You're already going to permits, honey. You don't have all the investors. Well, that's not really how it works. What a thing to say. It doesn't even make sense coming out of my mouth. No, I don't have all the obligations financially at the end, but we're going to take this mitigated risk and race to permits and believe that by the end, in fact, we can't even get all the obligations until we're at permit, let alone from the lender. I can't get the lender LOI until I get the investor commitment. I can't get the investor commitment now in this market until I get some sort of lender commitment. It used to be reversed, right, guys? You used to be able to you used to have to get the investor first, then the lender. Now sometimes you need the lender. this is probably going in depth. I'm assuming we're talking to other real estate folks. Now oftentimes we need the commitment from the construction lender to close with the investor, right? So I'll tell you what I think. I think it makes us better and it makes us the best.
I mean, it's interesting though that the biggest challenges, they're not the traditional kind of stereotypical ones, the regulatory issues, the permitting navigate. It's just the fundamental economics.
I think, guys, that we're a special breed. We're a special breed that decide we're going to go develop. We're going to make something out of nothing. There's a raw piece of land, and we're going to make something. We haven't assembled anything by the time we got it together. We're going to make something out of nothing. So I think already we must have either something missing from here or something added from here. Look, I believe the number one characteristic of getting this done is a refusal absolutely to quit. And the number two is a belief that you can succeed. Now, I'm a pastor and I'm a minister. I believe in the kingdom and I believe in God. So I would say all of that backstopped, supported, and undergirded by the Spirit. But I think both, I refuse to give up and we will succeed. And then look, what undergirds that? And here's the reason why. We're going to create something better for people. That can make you pretty unstoppable, guys.
Yeah.
By the way, even if you're building market rate, that's a ministry too, by the way.
Yeah.
Whatever you're building, if you believe you cannot be stopped, you will succeed. There's a power greater than yourself helping you. And you're going to make a way out of no way.
Yeah.
And that's what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah, it comes back to, and we've talked about this, the culture within your companies and hiring the best of the best and finding that talent.
Yep.
And for us, we've found, getting people to come over is always a trick because you have to have that vision and you have to have something for them to get behind. In most businesses, you're an HVAC contractor. It's hard. You're putting in HVAC.
Right.
Not too much vision there. But
it could be the best HVAC.
But it could, there's right. Yeah.
But that's what I love about what you're building is
it's so infused with mission,
with that
guys.
culture and mission that you're going to be able to really find a very select group of people that are looking to do something bigger.
Yeah.
And come over and support that mission overall. So then you have this unbelievable pipeline that you have access to. You have a mission now that they're going to have a line of people that want to get behind it and be a part of it. Looking down the road now, like we're 10 years down the road and we're looking at Logos and we're saying, wow, remember back in the day what is Logos 5 years out, 10 years out? What's the big vision that you're thinking about?
Well, let's say the cooperative is more of a partner than they are now.
Yeah.
There's more to be revealed. Bryson and I are working more closely together with his teams.
Yeah.
And it isn't just it isn't just guns for hire, but maybe there's, maybe it looks different.
Yeah.
Because you want to look, I keep people forever, guys. I mean, actually, it's really a track record. And you come into the family, it's very difficult for me as the father figure of whatever Logos. Sure, to think about not having someone then stay in the family, especially if they're doing a great job. So very seriously, like the intentionality of who we bring in and then keeping them in and increasing capacity by making them want to stay and be excited, which includes third parties and strategic partners, 5 and 10 years from now. Yeah. So I didn't properly articulate it in this brief phone call where I threw it as an aside to you. And I want to be careful because there's a level of proprietariness to this, but I came from brokerage. So I came from a funnel system that was very online. And I've seen how it works from inside and out. I've seen the programming behind it and all that kind of stuff. So this is what I'll say. We're going to work very closely with the cooperative to create a bulletproof, comprehensive go, no-go filter system of which projects we should build and shouldn't build on. And what Logos looks like 5 to 10 years is that we're very online. We're very AI friendly. So 5 or 10 years from now, what we're able to do is to project our power and we're able to project our capacity and we're able to resolve real estate solutions with a focus on development by using technology to start that conversation and get to resolution before human hands are so engaged in the conversation that they mess up a good thing.
Yeah.
And then to have human hands engage in elevating a good thing through relationships. Guys, I'm being a little oblique for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm being a little oblique for a reason. This wasn't, Pastor just thought about this 2 days ago. The pastor thought about this the day he started talking to land partners. How do I export the technology at a brokerage and import it into an area that is often antediluvian?
Yeah.
Denominations and churches, even cutting edge ones, are using 200 different systems in one denomination to deliver real estate solutions with 40 or 50 different people participating in the decision. All that's no. We're not seeking to change anything. We want to give them a better widget to do it, and we believe they're receptive already. So we're creating a better filter system that's online. That's what I'll say right now.
Yeah.
That if you put your address in there, many good things can happen.
Yes. That's kind of where I was gleaming where you were going with that. If I could envision this vision on your site where I'm a church in the Midwest, and
or you're a denomination with 50 properties you need an answer to.
Yep.
In 2 days, and with AI, I'm not saying an answer to everything.
Yeah.
But basically, what's the zoning? What's the permitting?
It gets you 75% of the way there, which what used to take you 6 months now takes you 45
Lord have
minutes.
mercy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so,
very exciting.
So on the and I already know how I want cooperative to help with that. Actually, right? So forget the nation, forget the region. Just take Southern California.
Yeah.
Right. Except for the federal. No, it's larger.
Yeah.
Nothing comes close to the aggregate of property ownership than churches and denominations. And that includes parkland and the federal government.
Wow.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
And I don't know any other developer that only builds on underutilized or unused church land. I know many developers that work with churches. I don't know any developer, or you want to call us a facility services solutions or a real estate solution company that only does it. And it's not, for example, in the denomination working in that we're an external. So that's the idea of the best and the brightest. So we want to be Paul. We want to be all things to all people in order to achieve a kingdom result. And so part of that is becoming very online, very tech savvy, very AI to do an old thing, and that's to serve the Lord.
Let's look 7 years back.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to younger Pastor Martin 7, 10 years ago when you're just kind of getting into this? If you give like one prescient piece of of good advice.
Enjoy yourself more. Right? I'm such a driver. It's my disc profile, guys. So I recruited on disc profile at the agency I was at. We leveraged the disc profile to recruit. And we would build teams around a leader being the driver, a visionary driver, et cetera. And then just like you build teams. Like, so when you told me EOS, I was all in. By the way, we want you to take us through EOS. Right? And I'm a guy that came from it at a really high level. I want you to take us through EOS, guys. Different conversation, but very important actually. So, because I know what I know and I know how effective it is. So what I would tell my younger driver self. So here's the problem, right? If we're talking personal. By the way, the number of developers and folks in this industry that have had, we call it testimonies, but that have had pasts, right? By the way, that just makes you, that's either going to make you or break you, But what I was coming out of was being extremely driven and having to atone for my past and having to make amends and having to get into a righteous marriage and start a new righteous family. This is my reality, guys. At a later date in life. I'm 51 now, right? So what you guys may have gotten right at 30, I got right at 40. And so I felt like I was behind the 8 ball, proverbially speaking. I felt I was behind on time and currency and that I had to completely catch up. And when you put that kind of engine in a driver already, guys, I scored 98% on the D on a disc.
Oh, wow.
There's very few people that score at that. And I can show, and that's not there's no brag about that. That can be, guys, that can be exhausting sometimes.
Yeah.
I scored 98% on the D. That means there's almost no time I'm not going to try to drive something. The thing is, don't drive it into the ground, right? So build teams, right? So I would tell my younger self, love people more, enjoy the process more, smell the roses more. Now, what I thank God for being 51, because it's just creating a biological.
Yep.
Just things are changing. I'm slowing down. A small example today. I work from home today because I was coming here as opposed to going to town. Coming here to the cooperative. I carved out an hour to spend time with my 2.5-year-old boy on my calendar. If you don't schedule it, it won't happen. Right now, if you'd said 5 years ago, you're going to take a couple hours in your day and spend time, not possible, guys.
Yeah.
Don't even know what you mean. So I would tell myself to smell the roses a little more, because there's some roses I don't even remember from the early days. They probably had a beautiful fragrance.
Yeah.
It's good advice for anyone.
Yeah. Just don't tell the employees that, but everyone else.
Bri, you and I are both. Look, Bri, when I say my D is so high that as my team is always moving and shaking.
Yeah.
Always moving and shaking. Thank God they feel like they have a compelling reason to do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have the natural drive.
So look, I will. I lead by example, just like I wake up before my team does, or I'm the first emails in the inbox. Sometimes I'm the last, it's one of the reasons why I like working with you, Bryson. Seriously, right? You lead by example. I take less vacations than many, et cetera. So I'm trying to always set this very high bar. Now, at the end of the day, I'm serving God. So I'm believing, I'm hoping, I'm praying that when my race is won, he'll say, good and faithful servant, good job. Right? So we all have our reasons. Yeah.
One thing I would say is, we have this wonderful platform here that we're using, and this new podcast. Again, thank you for coming on. Super excited. It's only episode 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
But we always like to let people use it as a message board in a way. Is there anything that you want to get out there to our real estate community, to our faith-based community? Anything you want to say to people? You're looking for things. I call this kind of needs and leads, if you will.
Sure.
Hey, throw it out there.
Look, what I would say is oftentimes, although I think it's happening less, you say that you're a faith-based developer that builds on underutilized and unused church and denominational land, and people kind of go, oh, this is great. That's nice. And they assume that I'm a nonprofit, constituted as a nonprofit with non-profit-y type folks working for me, which, by the way, non-profit-y type folks are amazing folks, guys. My Lord. Doing so much with so little. But if I'm talking to funders, lenders, and other third parties, I want everyone to judge and evaluate and work with and see the opportunity in Logos, just like they would with any other $500 million, $1 billion potential organization.
Yeah.
Logos is working to be and wants to be and is playing in the same rarefied air as any of the best developers. And in areas where we may not be exactly, we brought the cooperative on, et cetera. So no, what I say is if you're an investor, we have as many good opportunities as any other developer. If you're a lender, we have our balance sheet, our co-guarantee capacity, our pipeline, for anybody in the real estate development industry, you want to work with Logos, just like you'd want to work with any of the big boys or medium-sized boys. What I say to impact investors and what I say to foundations is you even want to work with Logos more. And here's the reason why. We have it all. So, we're going to go fund this developer because they work in the community. We're going to go fund this organization because they empower folks financially. Automatically, when you decide to make an impact investment in Logos, we work with churches, often in communities that are challenged. Not always. We'll work with church anywhere that wants to work with us, and it all makes sense for us. But oftentimes, we work in the African-American community. I am a minister in an African-American denomination. We work in communities of color, and we work within communities that have historically been marginalized and had many challenges. That's what I'll say. So when you invest with Logos, you're automatically investing with an impact organization, an empowerment organization. The moment we get a church vote to build, we've gotten the community vote. That's 80 people. I'll give you an example. That's 80 people in South LA that said, we want to work with Logos. By the way, we won't work with churches where it's not a nearly unanimous vote. and we'll walk away from a non-nearly unanimous vote.
Yeah.
We'll get a bishop's approval, and if it goes back to the church and it's a 60%, I may walk away. If it's 100 members, I need to see 90 raise their hands.
Yeah.
Our bar is very high, but what that means for all my impact investors, family foundations, et cetera, when you invest and fund Logos, you are truly working with a community organization at the very highest levels that is making a massive impact through our churches. It's such a unique value proposition for people that want to make a difference. I think there's your needs. Yeah,
I love that. I want to jump in really quickly just because, you mentioned, peek behind the curtain of some of the bigger firms out there, right?
Yeah.
We can compete with some of the biggest firms. We're lucky enough to work with a lot of the bigger firms.
We know.
And I'll tell you right now, you get a peek behind the curtain with a lot of the larger firms, whether it's the developers or the massive billion-dollar GCs or the architecture groups, you would be surprised. And what I see you doing, if I put on my cooperative hat for a moment,
Totally.
is how you're methodically attacking this business is insanely impressive.
Yeah.
And the way
Thank
you're
you.
setting it up and your vision for the future and bringing on the right people and taking the right steps and building it for scale. Sean, who's the president of the cooperative, have both commented on, wow, he has got this whipped. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to put this together, and he's going about it in the right fashion, where you see a lot of people 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back for a long time, just kind of fumbling, and they get lucky and they build over time. So I think you're doing something unique. And I don't know where you got the skill set to do this, but you're building an unbelievable business.
Thank you.
That's going to have a lot of stability and the ability to scale over time.
Thank you.
And so we're very excited to be a part of it, and so excited that you could come on our podcast and share a little bit of this. And
couldn't do without you guys.
Oh, and by the way, anybody listening, this is episode 1 of 7.
Yeah.
So we're just getting into it with Logos and Pastor Martin. We're going to be meeting a lot of his team. We're going to be talking about the finance side. We're going to be talking about the build side, the asset management side, getting into a lot more of the detail. So stay tuned. We'll be coming back for a lot of that.
100%. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for making this happen.
It's great to have you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Great stuff.